And if you saw the show, Zach, hello.
Hey, how are you?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Good, good.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to chat with you. And for those joining us, we are trying to back about Hamilton as a swing in the company. So if you have any questions for Zach, go ahead and put them in the comments. We'll get to as many as possible. First of all, welcome to Chicago. I saw on your Instagram story that you're actually back in New York for a minute, but in general, you're in Chicago. So tell us, have you been to Chicago before? Yeah.
No, it's my first time ever being in Chicago, and it's really great to kind of be in another like major city. It's very familiar, very similar to New York, so I love it. I love it over there. I love the transit. I love the buildings. It feels exactly like home. I'm really enjoying it there.
So good. Okay. You have to tell us what are some things on your bucket list for Chicago? Are you a foodie? What are some things that you're looking forward to?
I do love food. I haven't gotten a chance to try deep dish pizza, so I definitely need to find. I've heard a couple people tell me a couple of good spots to like really have like their good deep dish. But being that I'm from New York, I'm always going to be biased, but I really do want to try it. So there's that. I'm a big foodie. I also love like adventures. I want to check out like buildings and all that stuff. I mean, unfortunately, the Bean is under construction, but like you can kind of see it around Millennium Park. So I've been able to like catch that a little bit. Yeah, just trying out different foods and just like checking out the different areas around Chicago and what they have to offer.
Absolutely. So cool. Well, we have so much to chat about, but first I want to go back to a bit of the beginning of your story about what really sparked your love for acting.
Oh, man. So I started out dancing, and that was always like my first love, still is. I've always enjoyed dancing in any sort of capacity. And it didn't really hit me until like I was like fairly young, like maybe 8 or 9 years old, that I found out that I could actually do this for a living. And so I was so hyper focused on like doing that as a career. Like I had goals at 10 years old. Like I know what high school I want to go to and what classes I want to take. So I was very tenacious when it came to that, because I loved it so much. But when I really caught like the bug for musical theater, wanting to do all things singing, dancing, and acting, I saw it was an HBO recording of Jekyll and Hyde for like back in the early 2000s. It had David Hasselhoff in it, and I was obsessed with watching it so much that I taped it. Like I'm old enough to know what taping and recording is, so we taped it, and I would just watch it over and over again, because there was just something about like that element of storytelling, and I would say that was like one of the very first musicals that like introduced me to theater and like seeing that as a profession. So yeah.
That's incredible. When you think back to your very tenacious 10-year-old self, what's something that you would tell him?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, well, when you think back to your 10-year-old self, what that you would tell him?
Oh man, I wish I could tell him to. I mean, he really went for it, you know. So like, there was nothing stopping him. If there is one thing I would say to him, it's to not get distracted by what other people say about you, because there are going to be a lot of haters out there that are either not supportive or they're very jealous of like the things that you want to do in your life. Just keep going, because you're going in the right path, and listen to your mother more.
There you go. There you go. Well, I want to talk about your journey to Hamilton. And so first, were you on the Hamilton train, or were you fan a little bit later?
So to be very frank, like my parents became fans before I became a fan, because I was like, because when it came out, I was like very early in college, and we were all like talking about like, oh, like I want to wait until I see it, because I don't want to listen to the album first, or like a lot of people want to listen to the album first before seeing it, and I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. I ended up listening to the album first before seeing the show, and I fell in love with it. The one song that will always stick with me is the Battle of Yorktown. I'm very much I love listening to music that has like a force, drive, like anything that's like high in volume, like that builds a lot of excitement. That's the song for me. So that song really stuck with me. And when I saw it for the first time on Broadway, I think that was back in 2016. I cried. I cried because it was like one of those things where it's like you're building yourself up to like see this event, and then when you see it, it's like it's everything that you imagined, and like I have been a fan since then. And then as far as like getting into the room, like being seen for this show, that didn't really happen until after college for me. So like that was like 2019 that I was getting seen for them a few times, and it took me like 4 years. It took me about 4 years to really like solidify a spot in the show with this tour, and I am forever grateful. My parents are very proud because they've always wanted this show for me, and of course I wanted this for myself. But I remember when we saw it back in 2016, we were sitting all the way in the back, so like we could only see like a few like some parts of the stage. But we got the idea, and my mom, she turned to me and she was like, "You can do this show." And at that time, I was very insecure about like my craft as an artist. So like hearing that and like really just like trying to take that in, and then just like years later, I'm doing this show. It's a really big full circle for me and my family.
Absolutely. And most recently, just a handful of weeks ago, you met Lin. However, I saw that was not meeting him. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it had been a while since the last time I saw Lin, because that was back in high school. I went to LaGuardia High School for Performing Arts and Music and Art as a dance major, and my senior year we did In the Heights. And I was so excited about it because that was around the time that I was like starting to really try to get in touch with like my own Hispanic heritage. So I'm Puerto Rican, and I come from a Puerto Rican household full of women, and so like getting to like tell that story while kind of living through that story that Lin had created at that time was like also very special. So while he was in the midst of writing Hamilton, like, because we didn't know like it was like happening at that time, he came to our school and he brought like Chris Jackson and a couple other people to like talk with us about like the experience of this show, and it was wonderful. And Lin was one of the people to tell me to like be proud of who you are, because like you can really go far with just who you are as a Hispanic person.
Absolutely. And that's such like one of the joys is just the can you share sharing your Puerto Rican heritage, not only with your fellow cast members but with the country as you take this show around the country?
I apologize again. I think you caught up a couple. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, it's okay. So I would love to hear more just about, the ability to share more of your Puerto Rican heritage with not only the company that you're in, but also as you take this show across the country.
Yeah, no. So I mean, it's always like a conversation starter for some that don't see me that way, because I am like white presenting, right? And so it's a bit of a challenge, even for me sometimes, because it's always like trying to like understand that like I know who I am, and I understand the space that I take when it comes to like with work like this, but it's always it's always like really helpful communication with other people of color who are especially Hispanic, to like include to create this big inclusivity of like range of people that are able to tell it a lot easier than I. because to this day I'm still like trying to figure it out. You know, I'm still very new to all this. You know, like Hamilton is a really big step for me in wanting to learn more about myself and learning more about my culture through theater and being able to tell that story authentically in a show like this across the country.
Absolutely. Now I want to jump to the fact that you are a swing in the show, and for the folks who might not be as fluent in, you know, theater terms, what does being a swing mean, and specifically for you, and how many roles do you cover?
Yeah, okay, so I cover 6 tracks, which is all of the male ensemble tracks. So they vary from like, so bands 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They vary from being heavy dancer tracks into like more heavy acting tracks and more just like filling the space of like just telling the story in another way. So what my job is as a swing is to be on top of knowing the tracks, as well as like just trying to maintain the show. So let's say if someone called in sick, then I would get the call to jump in for that track to, you know, for however long they would need me to do it. If it's for like one night, then I jump in for that one night. If they're still not feeling well, if it's a weekend, because like, you know, doing the show during the weekend is hard. It's because it's a lot. It's 3 hours, and doing this show like 6 hours within a day is like hard during the weekend. So you know, so we do have moments where it's like someone needs a break, but I haven't done the show in a second, so I can jump in. You know, so that's my job.
Awesome. What is a piece of advice that you would give to a fellow actor who might be swing for their first time in their career and trying to remember all these different tracks?
Yeah. Well, first things first, breathe and remember that you got this job for a reason. And you know, I personally, the way that I see being a swing is that like I love playing different characters. So it's really fun for me to just like be able to like switch in that sort of sense. But yes, the first and most important thing is just try to breathe, because it is a hard job. It's not easy. Eventually, if you stick around long enough to like, you know, get used to the show, it does become easier. But being that like we always try to keep this show as fresh as possible whenever it comes to like cleaning choreo and all that stuff, it is a lot. So I would definitely say that. And it's really fun. It's a great opportunity to be able to sit, work through whatever you're learning, and then a chance to watch the show. You know, to always like take note and just always keep track of like what you want to keep learning or progressing when it comes to knowing a track or learning a track.
Absolutely. Well, we're coming to the end of our time, but to round us out, you know, after being in Hamilton for some time now for you, what are some things that you wish audience members knew about Hamilton, the show?
Yeah, I want people to know that it's really about it's about like putting your foot down and saying that you've had enough and you want to make a difference in the world and your life, and that you are able to do that. The show is all about possibilities and being able to make those possibilities for not only yourself but for other people.
That's incredible. Well, Zach, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Well, for all those who are watching, come see Hamilton. Make catch Zach at the show. They are here until the end of the year at the Nederlander Theater. Tickets at Chicago.com. We have $49 rush. We have the 10 lottery. To get your tickets to come see Hamilton. Really incredible to see the show in person and to be in the room where it happened. Won't regret. Come out. Come see us. Zach, thank you so much. And
thank you so much.
Back in Chicago soon. Safe travel.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.